When we were kids, we all had our go-to happy place, our escape. We gravitated to art, movies, bands, musical, or books. Something that did not make us feel alone, but empowered us in a world of love, magic, and adventures. Come with me as we explore the wizarding world with William Phoenix. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Wizarding with William Phoenix. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have been loving what you've been hearing so far, and that you have been telling all your friends, whether they're magical or muggles, and everybody is learning something from this. This week, we are going to be covering something that a lot of people have a lot of opinions. I managed to secure somebody that I know is very well spoken in it. This week's episode is going to be what I call books versus movies, which basically in a nutshell, we're going to be talking about things such as, did the movies do the books justice? Was there anything omitted in the books, in the movies that were in the books that we feel like should have been a part of it? Should they have done it differently? We're going to talk a little bit about whether doing the movies was the right way to do it versus maybe doing an episode thing where people are talking about every, chapter would be an episode for a season, and we would have like 7 seasons of it. But to discuss this in depth, I have secured the wonderful and the extremely busy Miss Neisha from Diversity Geek. Welcome her and say hello, Neisha.
Why, hello, everyone in the wizarding world. Ha, ha, ha. See what I did there? This is Neisha Mulchan, or Neisha M, your geek mom from Diversity Geek. And while I am not the most schooled of readers, I think I should be able to hopefully lend some information or my opinions or my thoughts to the conversation. I mean, after all, we all met through this experience, so.
We really did. Harry Potter was one of those things that we very much share in common. For those that don't know or I haven't mentioned to before, Neisha and I met at Universal Studios in Orlando, and we met I don't know if it was the day of or the day right after Alan Rickman passed away. She had put together a memorial in front of Hogwarts, which I think that a lot more people than anybody was really expecting showed up, because before we knew it, we were surrounded by people just there to pay their respect. And after that, we just got to talking, and we became friends and stayed friends ever since. So. Yeah. We are now, what is it, like 3 years later now? It's been
3-4 years, I think. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Now we're family.
And throughout time and throughout the few years that we've hung out and been friends, we have definitely had many different memories, including world premieres, Harry Potter related as well.
I know. Think about that, man. Good Lord.
And maybe and some not so well. We made memories, but they weren't stemming from a very fun time, and we won't get too much into it. It was just
we won't, and it's all with memories that were very much associated with the Wizarding World and the Harry Potter connection. But we've really been through a lot together. I know I was saying that to you the other day. I was like, gosh, we really should pull all those experiences together. But we
could really make a podcast out of that, just like talking about experiences and what everything we've done together.
Yep.
And people are like, and people will be surprised because it doesn't sound like a lot, but everything that unfolded during those times, there's like a laundry list, which
yes, it was a
one
huge
day we will get to.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the future one. I'm gonna make that happen. So.
All right, sounds good to me.
All right. So you know that go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that a lot of people may not know that Diversity Geek was originally You're Just the Same as I Am, And it was an organization we started in 2010 as a group of fans who met together for the very first time when the Wizarding World opened. And then in 2011, for the first celebration, before it was called Celebration, is where we officially became Why Just Am, or You're Just as Sane as I Am. From, of course, everybody knows what that's from. And that's how much we created that, the Celebration of Harry Potter page. And then everything happened from there. So, yes, my life has been very much, I guess, a matter of embracing the Wizarding World and the world of jkrowling. So, you know all that?
Yeah, no, I got all that. I was gonna say, and I'm pretty sure there's God knows how many more memories and how many more events that you and I will partake, whether together or whether on our own.
Mm-hmm.
It'll never stop. As long as they do it, we will be here.
That's true. That's it.
So, in today's episode, we should start, in the words of Julie Andrews, we start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. And this is another thing that I love about us. It's like I can make references like that, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Versus like I have friends that will look at me and go, "I have no idea."
No idea what you're saying, and for me, I'm going to know all of it exactly. And I almost burst out into song, but I was like, "Should I? Did he want me to? Because I could." But okay.
After living in New York, actually today. At the time of this recording, it marks my 1 year. It was my last full day in Florida. Tomorrow morning marks 1 year that I drove to. Well, I would say I drove to New York because I didn't make it to New York the first night. I actually stopped in D.C. But yeah. So we are talking Potter because what better way to celebrate. And let's get down to it. Movies, books versus movies. I will say that, and as people know by now, it's no secret, I was not a fan from the beginning. I did not sit and read all the books. I definitely ended up, I want to say I finished reading the books before I saw all the movies, so I made up with time. But I was not one of those, again, from the very beginning. I caught up. I watched the first couple of movies, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. Didn't even realize it was, there were books. My best friend kind of like scowled at me when she made me aware that there were books. And I was like, oh, they made books from the movies? That's pretty impressive. Obviously, I was being facetious, but at the time,
sorry.
She was not happy with that joke, but it's okay. She's forgiven me too.
I'm crying from that one. Sorry.
So, we can. I would love to do a sit down of like book by book, but this would be like a good 4-hour podcast, especially the further we get into the books, because as the books got bigger, unfortunately, more and more stuff got omitted.
Mm-hmm.
There's the debate of, did they omit the right stuff? Should they have omitted, other stuff? Like, what's the take on that? I can't sit here and say, oh no, they omitted all the right stuff, they did it the right way, because I know there are things in the books that I would have loved to see in the movies, but unfortunately that was not the case. Speaking like even like Hermione and everything that she does, the elves, like even the battle up until the end, the Battle of Hogwarts is very little elf representation. But let's start with like an overall. Were you satisfied with how they made the books compared to? Were you satisfied with how they made the movies compared to what was in the books? Yeah.
So I'm as you know, a lot of people call me Potter Mom because I was literally Potter Mom. I was the mom who was taking the kids to the midnight book releases, and very, very, very happily so. Because I was so excited that they were so involved. So for me, it was really important to do that. And unfortunately, I didn't get to read it at the same time as them. So for me, I actually did the same thing. I kind of read it out of order, if that makes sense to you. So I watched the movies and then I started reading the books, right? At a certain point in time. So I realized, yeah, my kids were like, you kind of really need to read the books, Mom. If you don't read the books, maybe you don't. But they weren't that difficult with me. They just said, I really recommend that you do it because there's so much that's missing. I know with my both the kids were like, it was so important to have had Peeves in there, such an implemental character. And the same thing you said about the elf representation. And then it wasn't until I actually read all the way, because I think I kind of went straight through to the fourth book, and I was like, God, Lord, we're missing a lot of the I want to say social or social relationships in Harry's life and in Hermione's life. So it's kind of sad to me that we don't get to see her life a little bit more because we only get to see her as part of Hogwarts, and that's great if you're only basing her on that part of you know what I mean, as being a student at Hogwarts. But there was a strong wealth to how she became who she is, and how she found her own feet and her footing, because as a half born, I was about to say the bad word. I can't say that bad word.
No, that is
I was like, wait, I can't say that word. And so that for me, and one of the other things that I was also very sad that they omitted, because I'm going to go back to the beginning in a sense, right? I did it. Was I really wanted to have more of the relationship with the Dursleys and understanding why Aunt Petunia was who she was. And while you, of course, don't love who she is, right? You're like, okay, so the jealousy was just such a strong thing, and here's where it came from. And that's why it was like this, And I thought it would have established just a little bit more. It would have established even more of the reason why she was such a hateful character, and why she was constantly trying to be something that you can tell, because the actor does a fabulous job, and you could tell she's working so darn hard to be someone that she's hiding the real her. You know what I mean? So you know what I'm saying, right? So,
yeah, no, I absolutely know. And I actually had this conversation with Brandy from Simply Potter. We were discussing this the other day, where Samara got me when we first started dating the Hogwarts limited edition DVD set, which has 200 plus hours of documentaries and everything else, and it's all the bells and whistles, which I absolutely love, which is autographed now by Daniel Radcliffe, which I'm in love with. But one of the scenes that was actually filmed, there were two scenes that were actually filmed in Deathly Hallows that did not make the final scene, which depict exactly what you're talking about, which would have really changed, like you said, it would have changed a lot. The perspective of Petunia is they're standing in the Dursley house where everything's packed and getting ready to leave, and there's that scene where Potter and her are standing in there and they're talking, and then she breaks out and she was like, that night you didn't just lose a mother, I lost a sister. And seeing him was a constant reminder that her sister was no longer there. Not necessarily because of him, but it was she had to live with this reminder that she lost the person she grew up with.
But it was because of the magical world, the wizarding world.
And it was the wizarding world, and that's why she had the hate of the wizarding world.
She resented them, and it was a very strong motivator for understanding that. And I agree, just that little bit, I think, should have stayed in. It's funny because I'm sure the whole people who are going to listen are going to be like, why did you hone in on that one little thing when there's a wealth of other characters? But you could see where I'm going with it, because it's back to the basics. We start there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So don't you think it would have made sense to bring it full circle?
I absolutely do. And the other scene that was cut from the same, well, it's a different scene, but it's from like the same timing, is when they're getting in the car and his cousin is there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, you know, which up until this point we absolutely hated. And, you know, he goes, you know, you matter to me. I don't care what anybody says. And you're like, wow. Like you stop and you're like, this is like the first time that we've actually seen him care about Potter. Mm-hmm. You know, the last time that we saw him, he was making fun of Potter, and that's when he got attacked by the Dementor back in, what was it, the Order of the Phoenix.
Order of the Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah. And between then and then the final book, we don't really hear much about him or see much about him in the movie.
But they built so much. She built more about his character. We knew more about Dudley and we actually knew more about Uncle Vernon as well. So again, I guess maybe it's the parenting side of me or the Potter mom side of me going, gosh, you know, maybe we needed to have more of that. I think that the film did a very strongly founded in telling the story of the main characters, right?
Yeah.
But bringing it and centralizing the focus around Hogwarts as the primary source of support and the foundation and the framework. But we don't, and I know this because the children have both spoken to me quite a lot about it, and then I'd go back and I'd reread something just to be sure. You know, J.K. gave us the external framework. It's not like the only time we get to see it is in the Order of the Phoenix. It isn't as if that's the first time we see it, right? It's there. We just don't get introduced to it in the movies until much later on. So I think that's an interesting filming choice, or cinematography choice.
And I'm wondering, like, if there's stuff that gets cut, obviously, because not every movie can be a 3-hour movie.
Right.
You know, which you ask any Potter fan, and they're like, I will sit through a 3-hour movie like there's no tomorrow. Kind of like when everybody was talking about Endgame being over 3 hours, and we're like, your point?
So? Yeah, so?
Hello? We did it with Titanic. We did it with Spartacus. We're good.
You know, for a fact, if they release in the theaters today the full extended cuts of each of those films, you know for a fact every one of us will go and see it.
We will be back in force, and we will get everybody back in cosplay. Because the thing that has changed between now and then is the fact that cosplaying has now become obviously like so mainstream that it's okay to show up in the movie theater and not feel like, oh, we're going to get beat up because we're showing up dressed like that. We will get everybody and their mother and their mother's mother, because there's grandparents out there and probably even great-grandparents, which, whether they're seeing it for the first time, whatever the case may be, and it's at the movie theater, seeing it on the big screen, there are certain scenes that are filmed which you envision scenes in a book, and then you see them in the grandeur of things, and you're like, oh, if they'll, IMAX is one of those. Some movies should not be IMAX. God. Some movies should, even if it's just for like a couple scenes. And there's certain Potter movies which, like, imagine Quidditch, and not even just on IMAX. Imagine like seeing a Quidditch match in 4D, where you're sitting there and your chair is rumbling as you're going and swooping through. The possibilities are endless. I mean,
they would have to remaster it, because I'm not sure that they shot it that way. But I remember speaking with David Yates and oh my God, my daughter's gonna kill me for this one. The producer, way back in the day in 2011 when they'd come for the first year, and I asked them because remember they came to celebrate the end of the last film had been finished, and they came to celebrate the Deathly Hallows. So, were you there in 2011 for that?
No.
For the very first celebration? Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I was not.
I wish you were. It was.
I want to say I was there. I was there second, third, and fourth.
Well,
the first time I was there was when the twins were there, and I literally showed up the last 15. No, maybe 15. Like the last hour or so, and the only reason I knew about it or I found out about it was because Claudia, which I'm pretty sure you may have met. She lives down in Tampa. We were talking, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm at Universal because there's a celebration of Harry Potter," and I was like, "What?" And that's how she told me about it. And by the time I got out of work and I got, I didn't even get dressed. I showed up in a t-shirt and shorts. It was like just a couple of hours, and the twins were doing like the last meet and greet. And then the following year, because I think the following years when they already had the picture of you as like their main
that's when we got it.
Website picture.
Aw, thanks for remembering.
See, I pay attention at times. Keyword. And then the following year, I showed up all 3 days dressed as like a generic. I didn't even have like my Slytherin tattoo at the time, so I was like just like a generic Slytherin Auror. And the year after that was like the debut of Jacob, like 1.0, thrown together like the day before. But yeah. So I'm sorry. We definitely digress on that. You were saying you were
yes,
with
I know. I sent you down memory lane on that one. So so I spoke with David Eads and oh my God, I swear my daughter will kill me. Producer. So we had very unbelievable opportunity to literally walk with them in the streets of Hogwarts. So who could say that, right? And
wow.
At a certain point, they both stopped. They were right there by the bookstore, right? Right outside where the bookstore would be. And they had a conversation right in that spot with us. And it was crazy because there was like a couple hundred of us just standing there because it was very ad lib. And I asked him a question and he went on to answer it for everybody. I'm the one. I asked him this question. I was like, well, how difficult was it to make the decision what you were going to cut out of the, let's just say we're going to focus on the last, because the last film was going to represent Deathly Hallows, but a two-part film, a two-part book, that there was no way you were going to fit that into a 3-hour film. And I really wanted to understand that. How are you going to do this? Because this is the one time where JK actually gives us this huge wealth of information that, albeit not much of it needed to be in the film. A lot of it didn't need to be. It was good enough for it to be written, because now we finally get all of this backstory. Dumbledore's, a lot of pieces of this puzzle, and I'm like, well, like, how did you decide? But they pretty much said that, throughout the entire filming process, they went with a continuity of staying with the character flow and the character arcs, and they because they couldn't fit in everything. Obviously, this is what they wanted to stay true to that flow, because they started it that way, so they stayed that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does, and it's understandable.
And and I was like, well, of course, there's things I want everyone under there. But he told it was a lot more than that. I actually have it on film, so one day I will try and find that for you so you can see it. Okay?
Well, are you going to Comic-Con in October?
Well, yeah.
Well, have it by Comic-Con. There's your deadline.
Okay, deadline. I have to meet that deadline. Oh Lord. Okay. Now that I promised it to you, I'm going to be in trouble if I don't do it.
And it's on record too, because it's recorded. Like, I understand that financially it would not be doable or feasible or however you want to call it, but I think that it should come to a point where even Half-Blood should have maybe been 2 movies. Because there was a lot in Half-Blood that was cut as well, which I think should have like really been in there. Like the whole revelation of who the Half-Blood Prince is it's almost as much as, spoiler alert, Snape killing Dumbledore. And it's laying there on the ground, and Snape is like, yes, I am the Half-Blood Prince. And then he walks away. How do you say something like that and then just walk away? It's like, no, there needs to be more. Like, there needs to be, like, a crap ton more. But, there was already so much going on that...
But again, remember, they had already chosen the whole time to stay focused on the kids. And so much of the backstory that we needed to know about the teachers, we don't get it. We don't get McGonagall's backstory. Come on, how much about McGonagall do we even know? But we really should know it, by the way. But we don't know. So it's as you watch it over time, you're like, oh, yeah, no, it's disconcerting. But I think, if they ever made the choice to remake the movies, I think they'd have they'd have more than an audience. I do miss, by the way, that we didn't get more of the Lovegood story as well. I felt that was something that was quite connected for fans.
They did her wrong. Like they're not like they. Let me say this correctly because I do not want this to come out the wrong way. Ivana Lynch did an incredible job with Lovegood. How little they portrayed her and how little they went into detail about her, and like you said, her story, is what I mean when I say they did her wrong. Like, they done her wrong. She definitely, she's like, oh, here's the quirky girl of, the Blue House, Ravenclaw. I completely blanked on that. Yes, I'll pay for it later.
I didn't say anything. You said it yourself, so.
No, I'm pretty sure this listener's yelling right now. Such a slipping thing to do, forgetting our house. Yes, sorry, my bad. Yes, but no. And I feel like she could have, like, it's an incredible job as Ivana did with it. Imagine what she could have done had they given her everything that she could have brought to it. Everything
that she knew needed to be brought to it. Because here you had a full-fledged fan who knew it inside and out. And obviously we all know that's not something that was brought to light. She was much more essential of a character than I mean, I love her. Obviously, we named our darn group You're Just as Sane as I Am because of how much I love her and how much I thought that people would identify with her. I think from the books, if you had to say I identify with a character or one that I felt I fell in love with as a character who meant so much. And of course Harry did, because Harry, come on, what he went through, my God, children do go through these things. They do suffer the pains and the sorrows that he went through. Absolutely. But she suffered a hell of a lot to do. And so did Neville, so I wish I had those backstories a teeny bit more, especially Neville's, because I think, I think it would have added a lot of wealth to the psyche, to the emotionality. Of course, he was already emotional, so what am I saying? Duh. I'm just nitpicking, but
I mean, like, the movies cut out his whole, like the backstory, and people are like, oh, well, what's the big deal about Neville? He's, it was like the bullied kid that was at the right place at the right time. There is if you have not read the books, there is so much more to Neville's story, to the point where I'm going to try not to give everything away if you haven't seen the books or read the movies. But Neville could have literally
read the books and seen the movies. Got it.
If you haven't read the books or seen the movies, all I'm going to say is this. It could have easily been instead of Harry Potter and so, it could have easily been Neville Longbottom and
Neville.
so. And that's all I will say. If you want to know more, read the books. Trust me, you will understand why people give Longbottom as much love as they do. He's not just like a character that's there.
His value was just as equal. Just as equal.
Really
I wrote an article on our website if anyone wants to take a gander at it. And don't kill me for it because it's an opinion piece and it has to do with the very painful journey, equally painful journey, I feel, that Neville and Harry went on, that lived through from their childhood, and how we see them represented as actors. As the actors represent them, and why sometimes, read it if you get a chance. And it's an opinion based on the book, the representation of the character on film, but really based on the book. So it's very short, but I think you'll appreciate it.
Which actually, it'll come in very handy for our next episode, which hopefully I can wrangle you for as well. Which I'm actually going to be. I titled it the cast. Actually, that's easy as that. And we're going to be talking about whether or not, and again, it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be opinion based. But we're going to be discussing as to whether we think, or the Potter fandom believes, that the cast that was chosen to portray each character that we see in the movies was the right choice. And if the answer is no, what do we think, again, in our thoughts and beliefs, that would have been or made a better choice? But that's literally an episode for a different time.
Mm-hmm.
But back to
it gives everyone food for thought,
Exactly. And again, if you have thoughts and if you have opinions and if you want to weigh in about it, by all means, message me, contact me, find a way to get a hold of me, and we can definitely discuss and talk and maybe even bring you on the show and have you speak your piece.
I think it would be amazing, Dank, if you asked your followers, and you have quite a lot out there, what is the one piece of information? What would be the one scene? What would be the one dialogue or monologue that in their favorite book that they feel that should have made it, that would have made everything click into the right place that they feel was missing? Because I'd be really super curious to find that out. I am, unfortunately, and I am sorry for this fans out there, I am not the person who's read the books multiple times, but I do certainly have read them enough to be able to understand what we're talking about today. But I know that there are fans out there who have read the books, dozens of times, and because of how important it was to them. And in their opinion, especially like my children, there are things that they still, that should have been there because it made more sense if they did it. So that would be amazing. That would be amazing to have that input from your friends and your fans. So
absolutely, and yes, like she said, if you think that there's any piece, especially speech-wise, that we think should have been in there and made a difference in however way or whichever form, by all means, I know which one mine is, which they filmed it, they just never put it in the movies. And that's at the end during Deathly Hallows, when Draco finally stands up, and for the first time, he's not like the bully and the ass that we have gotten to come to know, but he realizes that this are, his classmates. These are the people that he grew up with. And he finally stands up to the Death Eaters. And it's not in the books. I mean, it's not in the books. It's not in the movies. Which I think would have made, seeing him go back across that courtyard on the side of Hogwarts would have made all the difference for his character, movie-wise, if you've never read the books. And that was a missed opportunity on that part.
I don't understand it at all. Because I think from having spoken to all of you, because I think we've had this conversation a number of times, and I think the one consensus everyone has had is that those final scenes were probably the most. And mind you, I mean, with them making it into 2 movies, you would think they would have filled in it more, but I think that there are things more scenes missing that would have made more sense, or that would have had a much more emotional connection based on what she wrote, what J.K. wrote. So I don't know. I mean, the films are fantastic, you know, and as we all know, film representations and renditions are always going to be based on a different script, right? It's going to be based on the script, and of course, I know J.K. had a lot of say in what made it to the film, so she had to approve everything, right? So she approved this version in the long run. So you have to think about it from that point of view too. Well, if she felt that this was the version that we need, that it was okay for us to see it this way, then she must have thought it was okay for us not to have the other information in there as well. Maybe she fought harder for things that we know, but you know, I'm what to say. I do wish there was more in there. If they were to do a remastering of it, I would hope that they would add the deleted scenes for sure, all of them, because I think that they were all pretty much meaningful.
I know that now when they show them on, I still call it ABC Family. It's not called ABC Family anymore. I forget because it's
not Freeform, you know. They're on they're on a different channel.
Oh yeah, they're on Freeform.
They're on Sci-Fi.
They're on Sci-Fi now. Yes.
Katie Alani is going to hang you for that one.
Yeah, she probably will. But that's what she gets for beating me out in the competition. Which, by the way, I don't know if I actually officially ever said congratulations to her, but yes, congratulations to you on that. Very well deserved victory and becoming the correspondent for them. But I do believe that the Sci-Fi channel actually shows them in their full form. They're not like the deleted scenes are actually part of the movie, if I'm not mistaken. So
they're like the Lord of the Rings. You know, they have like 3 versions of uncut film.
Yes, but the difference is these are still enjoyable and not 6 hours long. So
no, exactly. So did you find that was there like one scene or 2 scenes that you're just, you know, they really should have had it in there because it would have made all the difference? Like we talked about Neville for a fact, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, the one that will stand out the most out of all of them is going to be the scene with him and his aunt in the empty house in the 7th in the 7th movie, I believe, or the 8th movie. I want to say
it should have been the 7th movie when they were had finally left.
When they were leaving. I think it was part. No, I'm sorry, it was part 1. So it was it was the 7th movie. Because to me, like, it's one of those, if you have never read the books, this scene will stand out and stay with you. And if you have read the books, it's finally kind of like her comeuppance where you're almost forgiving her for being as mean and having done all the horrible things that we had seen her do and whatnot. Because it's one of those, does it absolve her of everything that she did? Absolutely,
of course not.
None. It does not.
She tortured a child. There's nothing in any earthly or unearthly plane that would ever make that okay. And the fact that, so there you go. If you have to spotlight anything, it would be the fact that in the books, you would know that for a fact. Even with that scene that's missing, you would know for a fact why she was who she was, why she had the jealousy, why she had the resentment, why she had that level of anger. You would know that she had that level of anger, and it wasn't because she just hated this kid for just because. you would have known that. And then at the end, you would also understand that you can't give her absolution. But she knew she was sorry at this point. And
this
so that
may become controversial, but would you say that Aunt Petunia is the Snape of Muggles?
Well, that's a really interesting
I got you silent. I don't think I've ever pulled that one up before.
Well, you have. Whenever you're making me think, I'm thinking about that. Well,
because just like Snape, I mean, we don't want to say that she was done wrong, but she went through something and she took it out on Potter. And then at the end, she has like this redeeming thing to where some call, like Snape, some call him a hero, some people don't. Does that make her, more agreeable?
No.
Knowing, because, I mean, Snape got rejected for love by Lily versus Aunt Petunia, who lost, like her sister died. It wasn't like her sister turned her away because whatever other reason. Like her sister died because of it. Does that make it, like, not does it make it okay?
No, listen,
I
completely understand where you're going with it. Okay, here's the thing. Her loss is from two different points of view. She rejected her sister, right? So she herself rejected Lily. And she rejected everything about her, and it was based on the resentment and the jealousy. Okay? And then the guilt of that, she lived with it her entire life. Okay, when Lily was killed, and tragically so, and Petunia has to raise this child, Petunia has to face her guilt every single second of her waking life. Her guilt is Harry. You get it?
Yeah.
He's
absolutely.
literally the representation of her guilt. So what else can you do? So it's such an important story to tell. Such an important
this is why, also, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever get into a tiff with somebody, if you get into an argument with someone, no matter what it may be, no matter how right or wrong you may be or feel that you are, make amends. Because you just never know when you'll never get that chance. And if you don't ever get that chance, you may live with it for the rest of your life, and you may never get that chance ever again. And you will always wonder if you would have been able to, like there's people in our lives that when we first met or at some point in our lives, we feel like they did wrong. But if we're able to talk it out, figure things out, realize don't hold grudges, because grudges will only make your soul heavier. And when you cannot relieve that weight of your soul, it will change who you are. And sometimes it's not for the better. And sometimes you have that burden on your shoulders for the rest of your life. And Petunia is like a great embodiment of this, because for all we know, as they got older, she could have made amends with Lily, and said, "Hey, I was young, I was dumb, I was jealous." She was like, the perfect witch, and she called her, like, perfect daughter. Mom and Dad were happy to hear about that. But as you get older, you get wiser. It's like, you know what? I was young, I was dumb, I was jealous, and they could have reconciled. For all we know, again, speculation. They could have easily reconciled, and
exactly.
had a loving, lasting sibling relationship together.
Exactly.
But you could take it away, and it sucks. It will always suck.
But you think about that. Think about the fact that everything we're discussing right now is in the book. It's an emotional connection. It's an emotional understanding of this tragic, journey that she goes on that makes her this very hateful person, who then goes on to abuse this child, and then this child still maintaining some sense of love and understanding, but living in an abused home, becomes a person who has a lot of empathy and nurturing, or not always though, because he can be, you know, a bitter little thing, which we don't always get to see, right? And then because you know that he's not like he's not as nice as we see him in the movie. So, and yet, if he hadn't gone through that entire journey, would he have been the Harry that was able to, the chosen one? Would he have been that Harry? So, you know, somebody has to, the journey still had to happen in order for him to be who he was. But you know, it's so sad. It's so sad. So, and I feel the sadness of it more from the books than I would have from the movie. Right? Does that make, kind of make sense? Yeah. So there you go.
And that is definitely something that, I mean, it goes without saying at this point that we wish would have been in the movie and not cut from the books, because but I understand that people, you know, especially as they were trying to find their footing, Hogwarts was more the centerpiece. Hogwarts was more Harry Potter. Like, nobody really cared all that much about.
It was a children's film. They were making a children's film. They certainly weren't going to make it this big sad story. So
exactly.
They had already made that decision that that's what they were doing with it, which is why we didn't get presented in the first two films, which was really their opportunity to establish the precedent from the book. They did what they did because they had to tell a story to kids, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Alrighty. Wow. Now you have me going off on my psychiatry self here now.
But like I said, this is why I love doing this kind of podcast, because this is what it usually leads to. And so far, we've had the same results where, you know, we stay on topic, but that main topic will open up so many doorways, so many questions, so many new potential. I at one point, which I never thought would or could happen, I stumped Brandy, who like usually has like an answer for everything. I caught her off guard. I forgot what the question was or what I said, but she just went completely silent, and I was like, "Are you there?" Like, you know, because like I touched on something which I think was about the family as well. And it was just one of those like, oh, I'd never heard, you know, I never thought about it before, because we've gotten to the point where we feel like we've reached and found everything or every theory about Potter, and that's not the case, because we'll stop and think it from a different perspective, from a different point of view, and we surprise ourselves. But yeah, like I said, like we could go movie by movie about this and be here for like hours. But and we all have those scenes, like you said, that it's like, what do you miss that you wish would have been in the movies that would have made the movies? And some maybe some answers may be just small scenes. Other answers may very well be, you know, life-changing scenes, like, you know, like I said, if somebody has not read the books and just seen the movies, the final scene with Petunia that we see on screen, it's just like, wow, okay, like it's eye-opening. Like, I mean, Vernon is always going to be Vernon. Vernon's a dick till the end, and that's my one big adult word for the show, because even when Dursley is sitting there and he's like apologizing to Potter, telling him, you know, you matter to me, you're my cousin, all this and all that. And Vernon's just like, get in the car. So we're like, oh, okay, so you're just going to be a dick the entire time. That's cool too. All right, somebody has to be that guy, and you're going to be that guy. That's absolutely fine.
Well, because he has no emotional backbone. That's not part of who he was. So, you know, so.
But
we could keep going with this conversation, and maybe another day we can do this for each of the books, you know, and go over the pieces we felt that were missing, because I'm sure people would love to have that conversation. So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
and taking the time. I know that you have a whole slew of things going on. Like, you're not even at your home base right now. You're like half across the country. So,
and I apologize for all of the noise. I am in Indianapolis at the American Association of Nurse Practitioners National Conference, because that is what I am. Nurse practitioner, family practice, and neuropsychiatry. So, so I'm doing my mama stuff.
Anything that you would like, with everybody that comes on and guests, and is a guest of mine, any platforms, anything that you want to talk or that you want to mention, where can people find stuff for Diversity Geek? Do you guys have any events coming up? Any plans? Platforms yours?
We do. Absolutely. So you guys know you can find us on all the major social media sites. Diverselygeek.org is our website, and I really ask everyone to visit it because we do put out original written content, and we do have 2 guest authors so far, and we're welcoming authors to send me content and material for us to be able to publish on the website as well. And so if anyone is interested in sending me something that meets our ethos, which you guys know what it is, our mission and message, then you're certainly welcome to send that to me through at Ed Mulchan at diverselygeek.org and Mulchan at diverselygeek.org, which is my email. And we do, as you already mentioned, we'll be together at New York Comic Con, and we're still waiting to find out if we're going to be doing any panels there. I'm hoping that'll happen. And we are heading off to San Diego Comic Con in a short 3 weeks, where Diversity
3 weeks away only?
Yeah, it'll be 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Believe it or not, well, technically it's 4 weeks, 1 month exactly from today. So, from yesterday actually, we are going to be, for the first time ever, Diversity Geek will be hosting a workshop and a panel as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations of San Diego Comic Con. And
wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that.
I was not aware of that. I'm sorry that I'm going to miss it, because unfortunately, as people that follow manbitesmedia know, I am headed to Italy for a couple of weeks. So that's where my summer money is going, unfortunately. But are you going to LeakyCon at all?
I'm not really sure. Just really quickly, though, we will be live streaming. So you should be able to catch at least the panel from San Diego Comic Con directly. So if anyone turns into our Diversity Geek, goes to San Diego Comic Con 2019 to our regular feed from there, they'll be able to catch that. All the goings on at this big 50th anniversary. It's crazy. LeakyCon, as of right now, no. We're not planning on it. So.
Okay.
But we will be at New York Comic Con together, and we do have a few other events coming up. So, and you can certainly find us on our podcast, which you guys know is Diversity Geek Discussions, which you can find on all of the major podcast feeds that are out there, iTunes, Spotify. We are on iHeartRadio as well. So I'm excited.
I don't know if I ever told you or not, because I'm totally jealous that you're going to Comic-Con. So I'm like, how do I make you jealous? So I know that we were at the Cursed Child panel together last year.
Yes, we were.
And then you were. I finally got all their autographs.
Oh, on the book? On the same one that you started out with?
On the same book that I started out with, including Amy, like everybody that was on that panel, I got that autograph.
Oh, that is amazing.
Most of the cast I got when I was just by like regular stage touring at Cursed Child, but then there were like 3 or 4 that I was missing. There was Harry's, there was Hermione's, there was oh my god, so Draco, like an adult, because he's an adult. Like those were like the 3 main ones that I was missing, because none of them really ever stage toured except for their last night, which was on St. Patrick's Day night. And I just happened to go because my friend Amanda was in town and she had gone to see it for like the upteenth time. And I was like, oh, I'll go out there. I'll save you a spot so you can come out there. And there was already about like 15, 20 people already waiting. And it was like an hour or so before the show was into letting out. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people, waiting already. That's kind of like not normal. That's what's going on. Come to find out that I went on the right night because I was planning on going. I was planning on going a few weeks after St. Patrick's night, or St. Patty's Day. And had it not been for that, and I thanked her for it too. I'm like, had it not been for Amanda going and me telling her I'm going to meet you there, I would have missed out completely. But I managed to I have that book, which is now retired and untouched. And it was like the first, I don't know if it's like first edition, but it was when it first came out at Barnes & Noble. So, yeah, I was happy, and I was like, oh, I got to tell Neisha at some point.
Okay, amazing. Wow, I'm so happy that you got that done. And I was there when we started. Aw.
Yes, you were.
Yep.
But thank you so much for joining me. We will definitely do this again. And you have yourself a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, taking the time as always. If you have thoughts, comments, anything, please, by all means, let me know. We cannot get better. We cannot include your thoughts unless I know what they are. So leave a comment, let me know, and we'll talk. So this is williamphoenix. Thank you, Neisha.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll see you on our next episode.